Okay, let's unpack this. For you, we're trying to cut through all the noise today, really get a handle on the key dynamics of the Ukraine war. We're looking specifically at, where things stand around mid-2025.
Right.
It's just such a complex conflict, isn't it? There's a huge amount of information out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So our mission here is basically to distill that down, give you some clarity, some crucial insights based on the sources we've looked at.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it pulls from quite a mix of sources. We're talking policy think tanks,
Yeah.
CFR.org, understandingwar.org,
Mm-hmm.
but also major news outlets, Reuters, AP, The Guardian, even places like Wikipedia for broader context, plus some specialized conflict trackers.
Okay.
The idea is really to give you a comprehensive look, impartial, fact-based, just helping you grasp the really critical stuff and what it all means.
Great. So to really get a grip on mid-2025, where do we need to start, like chronologically? What are those key moments that brought us here?
Yeah, you really have to go back to 2014. That's the foundation. Russia's annexation of Crimea, the start of the war in Donbass.
Right.
That really set the stage.
Right.
Then the huge turning point, obviously, February 24th, 2022, the full-scale invasion.
Yeah.
Russia trying to take Kyiv, other big cities.
A massive escalation.
A massive escalation. But then what followed was, frankly, pretty remarkable Ukrainian resilience.
Yeah.
They defended strongly, launched those successful counteroffensives late 22.
Yeah, I remember Kharkiv, Kherson.
Exactly, Kharkiv, Kherson. And that pushed into early 2023. They actually regained quite a bit of territory.
But after that period of Ukraine making gains, we saw things shift again in 2024, didn't we? It wasn't all one way.
No, absolutely not. Russia definitely regained momentum during 2024. We saw major operations, particularly in the Kharkiv and Donbass regions again.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating here, and I think it's a crucial insight for you into how this war works now, is that the front lines aren't static. It's attritional.
Right.
We saw that really vividly just this midsummer 2025. Ukrainian forces actually launched a cross-border raid into Russia's Kursk Oblast.
Into Russia itself.
Into Russia, yeah.
Yeah.
They captured something like 90 square kilometers before they were eventually pushed back.
Wow.
But it just shows this constant churn. It's very much about grinding down the other side, resources, endurance, not always those big sweeping map changes we saw earlier.
So that brings us to the tactics then, how the war is actually being fought on the ground right now. It sounds like it's evolved a lot. What's really key there?
Massively evolved. Drones. Drone warfare is, it's absolutely central for both sides.
Okay.
Russia, for example, they've adopted this tactic, launching huge numbers, like 400, 800 Shahid drones. They call them Yeren, but they're Shahads.
Right.
In these massive nightly waves. And it's not just about blowing things up. It's a calculated strategy.
How so?
Well, the idea is to overwhelm Ukraine's air defenses, to force them to use up their limited and expensive interceptor missiles. So every drone shot down is still, in a way, a win for Russia's attritional game.
Ah, okay. Depleting their stocks.
Exactly. Now, Ukraine has countered, quite effectively sometimes, with their own homegrown drones, like the Gogol-M. But they're constantly battling equipment shortages. It's a huge challenge.
And on the ground itself, aside from the drones.
We're seeing recent Russian pushes, sort of incremental gains, but persistent ones, in areas like Sumy and around Kostiantynivka and Kramatorsk, slow grinding advances.
And with Russia launching, hundreds of drones almost every night, how sustainable is that defense for Ukraine, especially with those shortages you mentioned?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's incredibly difficult. Their ability to keep intercepting these waves depends almost entirely on consistent, sufficient Western aid.
Right. Not just the drones, but the systems to shoot them down.
Precisely. The advanced air defense systems, the interceptor missiles themselves. It's this continuous, really high-stakes arms race playing out in the skies. And this constant innovation, especially with cheap, expendable drones, it really makes you, it forces us all to reconsider what defense even looks like in modern conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. But while we're talking about, technology and tactics, it feels crucial not to lose sight of the human cost, the impact on civilians. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. It's profoundly devastating. That's really the only way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Russia routinely hits civilian infrastructure. We're talking homes, hospitals, energy grids.
Intentionally?
Well, the pattern suggests it's often indiscriminate, using things described as Katyusha-style bombing, basically. Intense rocket barrages and these drone swarms we just discussed. Just look at the attack on Juneteenth. Overnight, Russia launched 315 drones, multiple missiles, targeting Kiev, other areas. caused major urban damage
15 in one night.
in one night. And the casualties?
Mm.
They're grim. Tens of thousands of military killed and wounded on both sides, undoubtedly, and hundreds, likely many more unreported civilian deaths just in cities like Kharkiv and Kiev from these kinds of attacks.
Displacement.
Huge. Millions displaced. Inside Ukraine and abroad is refugees. The EU just extended protections for Ukrainian refugees into early 2025. It just hammers home that this isn't just lines on a map. It's a profound human tragedy unfolding day after day.
Yeah. And that scale of suffering, it inevitably raises these really tough questions about accountability, about justice. What's happening on that front? Are there efforts to document atrocities, pursue legal action?
Yes, definitely. And this is a really crucial piece with long-term implications. There are volumes of documented war crimes.
Like what specifically?
Things like indiscriminate attacks on civilian areas, torture of both civilians and prisoners of war, reports of mass deportations, sexual violence, and the forced transfer of children, which is particularly alarming.
Right.
And in response, you have international bodies stepping in. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, and the UN. They've both launched investigations.
Have there been actual charges?
Yes. Specifically, the ICC has issued arrest warrants for President Putin and other Russian officials related to some of these actions, particularly the child deportations.
Okay.
And for you, understanding this aspect is vital because it goes beyond the battlefield. It speaks to the long-term consequences, the global effort, however difficult, to uphold some kind of justice and prevent impunity.
Okay. And speaking of global efforts, let's broaden out to the international response, the diplomacy, the support networks. It sounds like that's pretty complex, too.
Oh, very much so. It's a real mixed bag. On one hand, you have positive steps for Ukraine, like being granted EU candidate status. That's a big symbolic and potentially practical step. NATO's support in terms of equipment and training continues to be absolutely crucial. But there's been definite uncertainty about U.S. backing, particularly under former President Trump.
Right. That was a big question mark.
It was. And there was that key meeting, remember, at the NATO summit in June 2025. President Zelensky met with Trump. Zelensky was urgently asking for more air defenses.
And what was Trump's response?
Well, reports say Trump offered the possibility of deploying some Patriot missile systems, but also, interestingly, spoke about contacting Putin himself. So kind of a mixed signal there.
How much does that kind of uncertainty, especially from the U.S., impact things beyond just the immediate hardware needs?
It creates huge strategic headaches for Kyiv. I mean, if you can't rely absolutely on consistent support from your biggest backer, you have to constantly hedge your bets, develop contingency plans.
Right, diverting resources and attention.
Exactly. It's not just about the gear. It's long-term financial aid, political leverage on the world stage. Meanwhile, you look at the EU. They're continuing funding, keeping sanctions up.
But not always smoothly.
No, they face challenges getting all members on the same page. Countries like Hungary, sometimes others, raise objections or slow things down. Unanimity is tough.
Okay.
And amidst all this, you also have attempts at talks. There are peace talks actually scheduled for July 2nd in Istanbul.
Really? What's on the table there?
The main things seem to be proposed prisoner exchanges. And Ukraine has apparently put forward a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
But it just highlights this really delicate dance of international relations, how alliances work, and how quickly global support can seem to shift or at least become less certain.
So wrapping this all together then, what does it mean for the future as we kind of bring this deep dive towards a close? What's the outlook? What are the big stakes, the risks we should be aware of?
Well, the general assessment seems to be that this summer 2025, could be quite decisive, or at least very significant.
In what way?
Russia's objective seems pretty clear. Keep grinding down Ukrainian defenses, basically try to exhaust them. Ukraine, on the other hand, is trying to leverage things like those cross-border raids we mentioned, maybe disrupt Russian logistics, and critically maintain that Western support pipeline. The broader global risks stemming from this conflict are, well, they're significant. You've got the proliferation of these autonomous and semi-autonomous drones. What does that mean for future warfare everywhere?
Yeah, that's a big one.
The sheer scale of casualties, military and civilian, and of course the ongoing nuclear safety concerns, particularly around the Zaporizhia power plant, that hasn't gone away.
Right.
This conflict is actively reshaping the future of warfare as we watch.
And looking beyond the actual fighting, what are the most pressing needs for the longer term?
Humanitarian relief. That remains absolutely paramount right now. And for the foreseeable future, millions need help. And then, looking further out, reconstruction. I mean, the scale of rebuilding required will be immense. And achieving any kind of lasting peace, that really depends on sustained international aid, but also, crucially, on that legal accountability we talked about,
Yeah.
holding perpetrators responsible. It really raises a fundamental question for all of us, doesn't it? What kind of world are we building when conflicts like this fundamentally shift international norms, accelerate certain technologies, and how do we even begin to think about justice and rebuilding in the midst of such, well, such destruction?
We've certainly covered a lot of ground today. The timeline, how it keeps shifting, the absolute centrality of drone warfare now, the just immense human cost,
Yeah.
the efforts towards legal accountability, that complex international support picture, and the really critical stakes for what comes next.
And as you, the listener, reflect on all this, maybe consider how information itself is really a key battleground in conflicts like these.
How so?
Well, it's not just about what happens, but how it's framed, how it's reported, how it's understood. Narratives become weapons too. So critical thinking, really engaging as a learner, that becomes probably your most powerful tool in trying to grasp the true impact of it all.
That's a great point. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you maybe a clearer lens, a better framework for viewing this really vital and ongoing topic. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep learning.